Today I'm going to share with you how to make a really simple stimulating rosemary oil, which is ideal if you're trying to create a nice platform for new hair growth. So especially for you if, for example, you've just recovering from chemotherapy treatment, perhaps you've lost your hair, or perhaps you had scalp cooling and you've had a lot of hair thinning, or maybe you've lost hair for another reason but you're expecting it to grow back, such as postpartum, after pregnancy, or being run down and general illness. Now the reason that I say when you're expecting hair to grow back is that you'll hear me say time and time again, there are no promises in a bottle whatsoever for new hair growth. But the reason I choose rosemary is because it has some lovely properties and it's been used for hundreds of years in hair care and scalp care remedies, and especially for stimulating new hair growth, and I'm going to explain to you how. So rosemary is a very stimulating herb. The fragrance itself is very strong, and the essential oil and various oils are taken from both the leaf and the gorgeous little flowers as well. So a lot of the plant is actually used to cultivate various products. Today we're going to use some organic essential rosemary oil. Now I really think it's worth investing in the very best quality you can of essential oils, because we really want to get the maximum properties, beneficial properties. And what we're going to do is we're going to couple this with some jojoba oil and make a gorgeous, lightweight, stimulating product which you can just massage into your scalp, and I'll also show you how you can use it as a very warming hot oil treatment for your scalp as well. Before we get cracking with making it, I'll just explain to you that rosemary has certain qualities, and the reason why we're using it in this oil is one of the properties is that it helps with circulation. So what's really important when we know and we expect hair to recover and grow again, for example after chemotherapy treatment or scalp cooling, something like that, we know what we want to do is get the scalp nourished and get the stimulation growing, because every hair grows from a hair follicle which is located under the skin level, and the way we get that stimulated is by getting the blood circulating again so it can feed the base of that follicle and then the hair can regrow again. So let's get cracking. Now I've got my little bain-marie, which is one of my favourite little pieces of equipment, kitchen equipment, and you might know these from making custards, heating up chocolate and things like that. But if you're going to get into making your own hair care, it's a nice little investment. What I'm going to do is I've got some hot water in here, and all I'm doing is putting its little partner basin in there, and it's just some quite hot water so that I can just heat up some oil very gently. Now you could do this, you know, or over the stove gently, or you could just use, you know, a what do you call it, a little glass bowl or something in some water in a regular pan, but I'm kind of in love with bain-marie, so I use it whenever I can. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to start with some jojoba oil. Now, jojoba oil is really the very closest to the skin's natural production of healthy oils for the hair and scalp. Coconut is pretty near, but jojoba is exceptionally light. Of all the different oils, argan oils, coconut oils, etc., this is very light, and this is why we're going to use jojoba. So all you do, it's really easy, is we're just going to put in a tablespoon, this is one of those little measures which I love, of oil in there, and then I'm just going to wait for that oil to very gently start to heat up. And the reason we want that to heat up is it's easier when we put the oil in for it to disperse in there. And secondly, if you want to, you can use the warm oil straight onto your scalp. Now folks, of course, this is one of these, do this at home, don't do this at home. You know, it's got to be fingertip touch warm, not boiling hot. You don't want to scorch your scalp or anything like that, but this isn't even on the stove, it's just hot water, and so it's going to gently heat up that lovely oil. Now the reason I'm using a tablespoon of jojoba oil is because we're going to add in 5 drops of essential oil. Don't use rosemary neat on your scalp because it is a strong oil. And if you're at all worried about sensitivities, especially I know if you've just recovered from chemo or illness, then all you do is once you've made this, you can just do a little sensitivity test by taking a dab, putting it here in the that called the crook, I think, of the elbow? Let me know if it's called something different. Put it in there and then just leave that 24 hours. And if you have any type of sensitivity, redness or reaction, then perhaps rosemary isn't something for you. But that's the best way to do it. And all of the products that I use are mild and gentle, and trying to use organic products with the very, very best quality as well. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to fingertip test that, and that's warming just really nicely. I'm going to give it a little stir, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to really easily add in 5 drops of organic essential rosemary oil. So literally, here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. Don't get over generous because you don't need much, and it's just got a really lovely smell. It's really something that is so heartwarming. It really is. And I think this is great for you to use, especially when you've finished your chemotherapy treatment. Now, if you've lost the nose hairs, which is really common during chemo, then you're going to have a heightened sensitivity to smell. And I don't suggest you start using rosemary until you have finished your treatment, because it can be very, very stimulating in lots of ways. Now, it's got some lovely properties which also take care of the scalp. Not only is it stimulating, hopefully for that new hair growth, but additionally, it's a really good cleanser for the scalp. So, you know, just helping the hair follicles to cleanse out any of those toxins and get the hair system nicely in place and stimulated and ready for that new hair growth. Okay, so this is now, yeah, that's lovely. That's just slightly warm. You know, if you wanted to, if you need to reheat this up, you can do that on the stove if you're going to pot it, which I'll show you how to do in a minute. And all you want is a few little dabs. Now, there's 2 types of treatments you can do on your scalp. If you want to use the hot oils, start off with your scalp nice and clean, and then what you want to do is get about 3 fingertip dabs there. You probably can't see that. 3 fingertip dabs, and then just dab them on the pads. These are called the pads of your fingers, like this. And then you can start to just spread that over your scalp. First of all, just getting the oil worked into your skin. And then what you can do is just go 5 times around your scalp, really enjoying that lovely warm feeling and that nice aroma of the rosemary, just getting the pads of your fingers working. Now, if you had hair before and you were shampooing, you might have done that kind of action, but what we want to do is get all the pads of the fingers in a circular motion, and that way you'll cover all of the scalp and just start to get those oils worked into the scalp and get that stimulation going, because just the massaging action itself actually brings blood to the follicles. And if you've got a nice friend, maybe you can sit down and relax and they can do the massaging for you, which would also be very nice. Now, you'll find that warm oil will help bring that aroma out. It will cool down pretty quickly. If you want to, you can get a flannel and pop it into hot water, not scalding hot, of course, really nice and warm. Wring it out, make sure that that's a comfortable temperature to put on your scalp, and then you can lay this hot flannel over your scalp, and you'll just find that just gives you a lovely nurturing feeling, and again, it will just lift that aroma up. Then, having placed that hot flannel on your scalp, if, for example, you want to, you can now remove some of that oil that you use, especially if you're going to be wearing a wig or, you know, some headwear, because you don't want it to start to get really oily in your headwear. So you just repeat that process. A nice, warm, squeezed out flannel, lay that over, and even just lightly massaging it just to lift that oil off. Then let that cool down, feel your scalp. Does that feel comfortable? Because jojoba oil is going to sink in, and together with the rosemary, it should just leave you with a nice, light, moisturising feeling. And then you're good to go. You can also, if you want to, leave that oil on overnight, if that feels comfortable to do so. That can be really nice. Although sometimes rosemary can be a little bit stimulating, so you'll have to gauge that and see how you feel. It can be lovely to do first thing in the morning just to give you a nice lift. So that's how you do it as a slightly warming hot oil treatment with a massage and using a flannel. The other way you can use this is very simply just as a small daily ritual. So what you want to do is, once you've made your oil, if you can decant it into a sterile pot, so basically just a pot that you've cleaned out with boiling water. The reason you find in a lot of aromatherapy and homemade products we use these brown jars is because they stop the light getting through, and that just preserves your product for a little bit longer. So you can keep this with a lid on, and you can just on a daily basis just take one dab. So you know, before when we did the warming massage treatment, we put all our fingertips in, 3 fingertips on each hand, and then we put that between the fingertips and massaged on. If you want to use it daily just as a moisturiser and a nice stimulant for your hair growth, you just take a dab, rub that between your hands, really rub it between your hands, and you're just warming it up actually, and you'll get that lovely aroma release again. And then just gently massage it over, or even just sweep it over your scalp. Let that sink in for about 1.5 minutes, and then again, if you are wearing any type of headwear or a wig, you'll be good to go. It's your scalp's going to absorb that in, and it will feel really lovely and nourished. So all you need to do then, folks, is just pop a little lid onto your batch of rosemary oil. Keep that somewhere. You don't need to keep it in the fridge. It's an oil with an essential oil mixed in, so just keep it in a dry place out of direct sunlight. Okay guys, I hope you really enjoyed that. Take a look at some of my other videos where I'm showing you lots of lovely things to make on the kitchen table.